Jack, I know you've been up since what time?
Pretty early.
Yeah. No, thank you for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Lake, what is it?
Minnetonka.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you making it happen, man. It's a good opportunity. I told Sasha too, the last guy that was on here, I said, man, it's definitely not an easy thing to do, to tell somebody your story about probably one of the scariest days of your life, right? And so I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah,
because I think your ultimate goal and mission here is to help educate others. You've been doing a lot of this for a while now, right? I mean, when I met you at the summit, the Boating Safety Summit, I was impressed because of all the work you do with Fell Marine, all the life jacket companies, right? With Mustang Survival.
Mustang and Kent Outdoors. And actually, I just talked with Brunswick today. They're going to donate life jackets to a water safety event that I'm co-hosting.
So what are you co-hosting?
It's a water safety event for our town. This is kind of a long story. You know, there's laws around what age kids have to wear life vests to, and then people celebrate it. Mm-hmm. Like Minnesota's 10 years old.
So is every state different?
It is.
See, that's one thing I didn't know.
Yeah. Were you not listening at the water safety summit?
Well, I was all over the place. No, wait, you would think it would all be the same age.
Yeah. It's not the way our government's set up.
It's screwed up.
Federal, well, yeah, pros and cons. But so I'm hosting a water safety event with a few other people. The town that I live in, Minnetonka, and then some swim instructors. Our kids went through ISR, that's Infant Swim Rescue or Infant Swim Resources. I'm not sure. I'm kind of lost on what it means now.
Yeah.
But what that does is teaches kids how to survive in the water, not how to have fun, but how to get on their back, swim till they can't anymore, get back on their back, rest, get to the side of the pool. It's fascinating. The final test is them jumping in with their winter clothes on and floating on their back and getting to the side of the pool. How cold's the water? Well, in this case, it's pretty nice. Yeah. It's pretty comfortable. It's a therapy pool where our kids went. But so that the ISR instructor came to me, or she was talking about it. She's like, I'm going to do this event. I'm going to do it with Minnetonka. That's where the lessons were with their aquatic director and a couple other swim instructors. And I'm like, let me help. Mm-hmm. I said, through National Safe Boating Council, I received a grant from Coast Guard to do this very thing. So I knew about that opportunity. I applied for it, got some money from them.
Nice.
And we're coordinating that effort. And the reason I'm saying this is, you know, I was in a significant incident. By far, the one reason I'm here is my life vest, number one. Mm-hmm. But also, over time, my parents had me in swim lessons every year. I
think that's the number one thing. I mean, I was out a few summers ago, and there's this girl that was in the water. She didn't know how to swim. And I feel like, and she was like 16, 17. And I'm surprised that I think that's kind of a major problem if you're not raised and learn it. So that's what you guys are doing. More, I mean, educating people also, besides like how to handle themselves in the water, but to potentially maybe rescue other people as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to you as an individual. You cannot predict how you're going to react to stress or a stressful situation, right? And if you have the tools and ability and the desire, you're going to do it. If not, that's okay.
Some people freeze up in that kind of situation.
And I might freeze. I mean, I haven't frozen up many, many times, but I might next time. Who knows?
Yeah, I've only had it happen to me really once. Did I tell you about that when I was with CETA? I don't know if I did.
I don't think you did.
An old guy. In his like mid to late 70s, was kayaking, and it was July, it was like 80 degrees, whatever, and he was a diabetic. And I don't know I guess he just passed out. So I just got done a job, and all these people are waving at me, yelling. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And they point upside down kayak. I panicked. So I ran over there, rolled him upside down. Dead weight's pretty heavy, so I tried to get him on the boat, and he started throwing up everywhere. And I was just like, whew. But I mean, this, like, at least he was breathing, you know? And it was, so after all that said and done, I tried to get him on land to because of the ambulance right there. I drove the boat right into a sandbar, not even thinking, like, I know the water's better. I just, you know.
Yeah, it's hard. So I thought about it because my incident was a couple years ago. And it's like.
I didn't ask you. When was this?
It was a little over 2 years ago. It was a week after ice out. And so for the non-northern people, ice out means the lake was frozen over, mm-hmm. and there's a way to measure it, either percentage of ice left or if you can get from A to B mm-hmm. without hitting ice. So that's ice out. The ice is melted. The lake's cold still.
freezing.
There might be some ice. It's very close to freezing. Yeah. So it was a week after ice out a couple years ago. So maybe the third week of April, somewhere around there. So
you just went up on your third year. You said second year.
Second year, yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
So yeah, let's run it by it, man. I mean, I've heard of the story in an article, but I don't know the full details. So
yeah, I'll give you and I'll try to go slow so it's
take your time, man.
Understandable.
Yeah. No, it's
so it was right after ice out, and Minnetonka is a pretty busy lake. There are a lot of buoys, hazard buoys, channel buoys, everything, and it's busy in the summertime. Very, very busy. So what I like to do is in the spring, after the buoys are out, but people aren't out yet, I like to go cruise around and just kind of relearn.
Get your grounds.
Yeah, just to refresh it. And, I am actually pretty safe in spite of my incident. So I'm out, and I took a right, and I wasn't wide open. I don't know how fast I was going, but it was.
Was this in your whaler?
Yeah. Dauntless 210.
Okay.
So it's got a 200 Verado. The digital throttle system is pretty smooth, fast.
That's fast.
Reasonable.
That's a nice motor on
It
that
moves.
boat.
It moves if you want it to. So I went out and I took a right, and then I came back to the left, and I knew weather was coming, and this is important. I knew weather was coming, but it wasn't supposed to be there for a while still. And when I came back to the left, the storm had come in, and you hear this all the time, right? And I'm hundreds of hours, if not more, experienced.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of boating every which way.
I tell people all the time, I mean, it doesn't matter how experienced you are. Don't let the ego get in your way.
Yeah, that's kind of my message, because I've shared this with other people. Just a side note, I've shared it with other people like, oh, it's because of this, that. Like,
no.
And I told them, like, you think you're impervious to an accident, but it happens.
I can't wait for you to meet Sasha, because he was same similar story.
There's a lot of parallels to his story in
yes.
mine. So I came back to the left, and I hit the first wave. And quite honestly, it's something myself in the boat absolutely can handle. And I was sweeping. I hit that wave. It jostled me, and the sheriff found my boat wide open throttle, which I was not. And I think what happened, thinking about it, I remember going off the boat. That happened in a split second. And basically, like you roll your ankle walking down the stairs.
Yeah. Just
that's what it felt like just boom, boom, gone. But I think what happened was, instead, and this is one of my big mistakes, instead of dealing with the boat and then powering down, I reached to power down, and I hit the next wave, and it popped me forward.
Yep.
And just threw me off.
And those throttles are very sensitive, too.
They're pretty, especially if you're over, if it's already revving, it goes fast, a lot faster.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
So you're turning, hit one, and then the second one was what threw you off?
I think, like I said, this is pretty blurry, and it's been a couple years, but I do remember turning, hitting that wave, and like getting knocked a little bit. I'm like, whoa, this is bad. So I went to power down, and I think I hit the next one, and it kicked it forward. Combination of little things. I'm already in a sweeping turn.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
your body momentum's probably already.
It was ready. It was ready to go flying, right? And I think when I hit that extra kick in that turn just threw me, and I bounced off my side rail and ended up in the water.
And you did have a life jacket on, though.
I always wear a life vest. I wear it. I actually put it on in the truck before I even launched my boat. And I have honestly showed up at home with it on before. My wife's like, did you forget something?
Same. When I was with the Cito, I told you, we go out by ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
I had that. I had my E-Probe on me all the time.
Yeah, I would too if I were in the ocean.
Yeah. 60 miles out by yourself.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
So it threw you off. I'm always curious because every boat's different. I tend to notice boats without hydraulic steering like to do the circle of death because that motor is going to face one way. Did you have hydraulic or was it a cable?
Yeah, it's hydraulic and powered.
So yeah, I'm sorry. Cable usually does the circle of death.
They all do.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the hydraulics got such a sometimes stiff steering, and they sometimes tend to go forward.
You get a little more leeway.
Yeah.
Remember, I was already turning left, and that's
right.
That's the natural torque to make it do that. That's the direction it goes.
Yep.
And one of my other big mistakes that day was I didn't have my engine cutoff switch on, and like a typical boater, when I first started boating, I never even considered wearing it. It was a nuisance that got in my way.
Well, it probably wasn't even a law then when this happened. Remember, didn't they just make that a law like last year?
It was pretty close. Yeah. I don't know if it was or wasn't, but it was close. But I used to be a volunteer captain for a high school fishing team. And I learned how important it was there because you would be disqualified if you didn't have that on. So I did get into the habit of wearing it all the time. I didn't that day. I just didn't. And it was a mistake. And for a guy who normally does, I didn't that day. And I really would have been nice if I had. Would have saved me a lot of effort.
It's just complacency, man, and it's not you. It's not your fault. Everybody does it. I'm first one to admit. I've done it too. I've worked literally on the water for the past 15, 16 years now, and complacency is what I've told you. I drove the forklift here. You get complacent on that thing, the damage happens.
It is a moment.
Yeah,
it is absolutely a moment.
So you're in the water now. And it's April. What is that temperature?
It was 39 degrees on surface. Jesus. And I knew the situation I was in. I can see it in my head right now. I knew the situation I was in, right? As I'm flying, I bounced off that thing. And at first I'm like, I cannot believe this is happening, right? It's probably something you would think, right?
Yeah.
Can you believe you're in this situation? And this is all happening as I'm flying through the air.
I almost feel like embarrassed almost in a way. But but then at the same time.
You don't have time to be embarrassed.
You have to start thinking
it's not
quick.
Emotion. Right.
That's exactly what Sasha said. He's like, I was asking him, I was like, at what point did you feel like, oh shit? Like, he's like, there was no option. Like, you can't think like that.
Yeah. I told you there's a lot of parallels in it. So, and I'm not crafting this around him. Like, it's very.
I love hearing these stories.
How similar it is.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's no joke. It's good to hear these though from different people because it all kind of relates to be the same thing in hindsight. So, So yes, did the boat what did the boat do? Like how close was it to hitting you?
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, let's hear it.
And I was very fortunate in a way. And I talked to the manufacturer of my life vest. I had a hydrostatic version, which for people who don't know what that means, it means you can get rained on. The thing that makes those charged life vests go off is a little thing dissolves in there. Mm-hmm. The hydrostatic is in a little chamber. So the chamber has to open based on, what is it? Atmospheric pressure, barometric pressure, going underwater. Well, you only need a few inches to go underwater and it opens. And I talked to them and they asked me about this specifically because mine didn't go off. This does tie together. It sounds like I'm getting busy. Mine didn't go off right away and it helped me, to be honest with you, because I knew the situation I was in immediately. Like immediately.
Why didn't it help you?
Why did it help me?
Why? Yeah, well, I would think it. Or you said it didn't help you.
No, it did help.
Oh, it did help you.
I think it did. Because as I was flying out, I'm like, I'm in serious trouble.
Yeah.
This is how you die, right? And immediately I tried to be as big as, it sounds crazy, but this actually went through my head, be as big as you can. And I had my raincoat on, my fishing raincoat. That helped with kind of like being a bat, right? So I tried to stay on top of the water as much as I could because I knew I had to get away from that boat because I knew what was going to happen. And I was probably 4 feet away from it. Jesus. And at this point, it's wide open. So I took the full wake of that motor in my face. I mean, what are we right here? About 3 feet?
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit further. That was blasting me, man.
Jesus.
Blasting me. And I'm not sure that I could have kicked away had that gone off, the life vest gone off. And the thought behind why it didn't, and I did eventually pull it, the thought behind why it didn't was because of the speed that the incident happened actually trapped that cylinder container closed. The momentum kept it closed. So when I first hit the water, it didn't trigger. And then I kept myself above the water, getting away from that. And then I pulled it.
Gotcha. That makes a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I talked to the engineers of the company and they're like, wait a minute, tell me the details. And
that makes sense because it gave you the ability to just swim the hell away.
Yeah. Just enough, right? Just enough. It was
So what'd the boat do though?
Well, it was really bad. That day was blowing like 40, 50, right? So they do circle. You've seen videos. You've published videos of the tight circle. This time it kind of oscillated. And I got away from it. And being a human and maybe a guy, I don't know, maybe women think like this too. I don't know. At first I'm like, can I get back on that? I'm in the water.
Honestly, I mean, I would have thought like that, especially if there's nobody around, depending on where I am.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cold. You don't got much time in that.
Yeah.
So,
did
you try to go back towards the boat?
Well, I was right near it. Right. I mean, it was circling right next to me in the water.
That's such a risk, though. Yeah.
Well, I know. And then I went through the thought process quickly, but let me back up just a little bit. So when you hear, You read about this all the time, and I've read about it 100 times. What happens when your body goes in cold water? There's reactions. One reaction can be you'll just lock up and sink. That happens. It happened that year to like a 24-year-old. Jumped off a pontoon. Any water temperature 70 or lower, maybe your body will just freeze and you'll just lock up.
Mm-hmm.
That happened that same year. Later in the season, the water was like 68, 69 degrees. A kid jumped off his pontoon with his friends, and everyone thinks pontoons are safe. He locked up and sunk, and they found him later.
No way.
In front of his friends, his healthy friends on a pontoon.
Just froze up.
He just locked up and sank. So I got lucky. Your brain, when you hit cold water, you take a gasp, which is why it's dangerous. And a lot of time that does it, right? You suck in that water. It's nothing you make a decision to do. It's what happens.
Yeah.
Your brain kind of shuts down for a few minutes. And I don't know that I probably did, quite honestly, because everything else happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember specifically. But I do remember once I got away from the boat, things settled for a moment. It was probably about 5 minutes into it, I'm guessing. I looked around. There were a few boats out that day. I watched them go screaming by, and I lost my voice, much like Sasha screaming for help. I mean, it took weeks for my voice to really come back. I finally, once I was safe from the boat, I could focus on what I needed to do next, right? And it's hard to give people advice to do that, but if you're in a situation and you can think, because you really shouldn't be able to in cold water.
Or just the adrenaline alone sometimes.
Adrenaline. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why. It can just shut. Like you said, you hit the sandbar, right?
Yeah.
You knew better.
Trust me.
But you were focused on this.
Just my heart. I remember that was what it was. And I mean, I wasn't even really at risk. It was just more or less like, I've never had a situation like this happen to me before. And it wasn't, like I said, I wasn't at risk, but it was somebody else. And that's just got to me. I was like, damn, man.
Well, I'd say you probably saved that guy's life.
I think I did. Yeah. Right. I mean, if I just so happened to be at the right place at the right time. I just got done a job and he was right there.
Well, we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how life works. So in this goes back to the cold water thing, right? I'm in the water and I'm like, my vest didn't go off. I'm like, all right, you got to do this. And I have multiple life vests, right? Mm-hmm. Most of them have the little yellow tags.
Yeah, that's mine has that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The hydrostatic has like a recessed bar that you have to grab. But I'm raking at those, those charged life vests. I'm raking at it, trying to hope I grab the yellow tag. And I did that for a couple minutes. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have the different one on. I have the one that's like a recessed bar.
Yeah.
You're going about this wrong. Pull the bar. I got that pulled. And then I'm okay, right? I'm floating.
Yeah.
And then I see boats fly by because it's terrible, right? It's a terrible storm came in.
So everybody's trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a big white Boston whaler with a T-top doing tight circles as fast as it can go.
So nobody saw it?
Yeah, they had to have. And that's my point. If you're on the water and you see a boat being operated in a way that no one could stand on and operate, maybe take a look around.
Well, as a captain too, whether we're fishing, hanging out on the weekends, I'm always alert to things.
Yeah.
I'm actually very quiet behind the, when I'm running the boat until I get to at anchor,
Yeah.
And we do it, especially when we're running out to go fishing, because you don't know what the hell's floating out there either. I mean, we see it sometimes on these flat calm days and we're just looking at each other like, man, if we hit that, we're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going wide open at like 50, 45, 50.
Yeah, it's how it is.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing that, and I actually explained this to my 3 and 5-year-old the other day. We're on the water, not going fast because I can't go on plane with those guys for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm explaining to them like, hey, I have to look around for stuff. I'm doing all these things. I'm operating the boat. That's what I need to do. Yeah. You guys don't come up here. We talked about throttles. Like, don't touch this. Don't be in this area. Mm-hmm. If you are in this area, you absolutely have to do this. But also, I'm trying to educate them, like, you need to look around all the time.
Yeah.
And you do. If you're operating a boat and you're not looking around at least every minute, you're making a mistake. Mm-hmm. So these guys go flying by me, right? I'm in this terrible weather. I realized about 5 minutes into it, there's a real chance I'm dead today, because Minnetonka is a pretty nice lake. Not everybody's there all year.
No, and this is April, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so these very nice homes might not have anyone in them. So there might not be anybody to see this even. Uh-huh. So then I'm like, all right, what do you do now? There's a chance you're going to be dead today.
And you're 5 minutes into this, or like 5-10 minutes, you said?
5 minutes into it when I realized that. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should stay by the boat. I'm like, forget the boat. start working because it's blowing really hard, right? 40, 50 mile an hour winds. Not exaggerating.
No, I believe it. It gets nasty there. I've seen it.
Yeah, and I've spent a lot of time in the ocean, so I'm like, all right, kick back. See if you can float. Just float.
Yeah.
That's going to make it easier for you, right? I couldn't. The waves were too much. I actually had to take my life vest off, this is very
Really?
ill-advised because the waves were rolling over my head.
Okay.
And I straddled it.
Oh, so you got on top of it?
No, I straddled it. I put it between my legs
gotcha.
to raise me up more, and that kept my head right above the waves. I still drank a lot of water that day, but that was a good choice, even though don't take your life vest off unless you absolutely need to.
Yeah.
It's a big no-no.
Nobody knows what to do. You have to be put in a situation to kind of make that decision, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like you made a bad decision. I mean, who knows?
It was the right one.
Yeah, see?
But it's a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially in cold water.
I was going to ask, how far were you from land?
Well, that's the funny thing. I was probably, I don't know, few hundred yards from the closest thing that's called Big Island.
Okay.
So that was over here. I don't know let me try to explain this. So where I decided to go would be like 12 o'clock. Big Island would be 9 o'clock.
Okay.
There was shore at 3 o'clock, but it was way further, maybe a mile away. Big Island was probably closest.
So depends on what the wind's doing. And
The wind is blowing.
12 o'clock?
The wind is blowing north.
Okay.
I get to Big Island. There's nobody there either, by the way. So it's like if I could even get there, because I would be doing a whole lot of work trying to cut across that wind. I made the decision, you got to go for that. That's where your help is, right? You have the wind helping you. Why fight the wind?
Yeah.
So I'm going that way, and I try to kick back and float. You know, I've spent a lot of time in the ocean, a lot. And I'm like, maybe I can just float for a while and swim and float. And I couldn't. The waves were too much. They kept rolling over my head. So I'm like, all right, get to work.
Yeah.
That was it. Like
short, just wind chop.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that too, because this is really fascinating. So, you know, I'm working along, and it's cold. My feet were so cold. It was like 60 out, 55 or 60 out. And at one point, if it's 39 at temp and I'm 6 feet tall, you know, my feet are cold.
Yeah.
They're damaged now. They're cold. Like right now, they're cold. At one point, I kicked back and put my feet out of the water, and it felt so nice, Aaron. It was like heaven, right?
Yeah.
It's like that piece of pizza you need when you haven't eaten in a couple days.
Yeah.
And immediately I'm like, this is stupid. Get back to work.
Yeah.
And I absolutely get how people would get sucked into that and take one wave over and gasp and you're done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just shocked that your body's not locked up yet.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll share some more things that I should not have been able to do. I don't know why I was able to, but my brain still worked, and that's amazing. Like my flip-flops floated by at one point, and I grab it. I'm like, should I hold this? And like, is it going to help me swim faster?
Yeah.
I'm like, get rid of it.
So where are we at now? We're about, what, 15?
I'm probably 15 minutes into it right now.
What do you got in cold water like that? They usually say like, what, 50 minutes or an hour max?
You know, you hear all different things.
Yeah. I guess everybody's
If
different.
you hit an hour, you're dire.
Yeah.
Right? 30 minutes it's about 10 to 15 minutes, quite honestly. That's where your risk really multiplies. And at 30 minutes, you should expect to be able to not think or do anything, to be honest with you. So I'm about 15 into this maybe. And another thing that I did really smart was, I don't know if it's smart or not, but my raincoat, my fishing coat was coming down over my shoulders. So it was getting harder to swim, right? And I went to take it off, and my hands didn't work because everything they tell you, surprise, is true. So I couldn't unzip it. Like I couldn't grab a zipper. It just didn't work. And I'm like, maybe I can slide it down. Slide it down over my arms. And immediately I'm like, stop, that's stupid. Because you're in a straitjacket. You're not going to do it. You can't even unzip it. Mm-hmm. You're going to be stuck in a straitjacket. You're going to die. Mm-hmm. So I stopped. I'm like, all right, I'll just keep working. Those are two really good decisions. Keep working when my feet were warm, when I stuck them out of the water, and then not trying to slide my jacket down. And then I just kept telling myself over and over again, like thousands of times, keep working, keep working, keep working.
That's probably the best thing you can do. I mean, at that situation, you don't want to, that's what Sasha kind of said. And yeah, keep rolling. And I mean, you would think too, it's probably keeping you warmer in a weird sense, maybe, or at least, I don't know. I can't imagine how freaking cold you had to have been, dude.
I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And for example, like One of the nurses at the hospital was like, "Oh, that must have been so frightening." Like, it wasn't scary at all. It was very real.
Real
It's
and
absolute. Like, you're
Yeah.
either doing this or you're not.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
not is
Or
not
you're
an
giving
option.
up and you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't blame anybody who I said this to somebody that I think their son passed or something. I said, I promise you, he did everything he could. I mean, it makes me emotional to say that.
Yeah.
I promise you that person did everything they could to not have that happen to them.
Yeah.
It's very hard to die. Your body doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
You want to
You're gonna do
live.
everything you can.
Yeah. If you can, yeah. So, where are we at? So I'm still working
You're
like
about
crazy.
15, 20 minutes in or something
Yeah.
like that.
And then about around 30 minutes in, you know, when you go jogging, you get that little side cramp.
Yeah.
Around 30 minutes into it, my entire body was cramped. It was terrible. I mean, terrible.
Calves, everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Head to toe, my whole body was cramping. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had blew my glute out. I tore my glute when I bounced off the side rail, which I actually bent the stainless steel side rail and ripped the screws out of the gel coat.
Jesus.
I know. I told my wife, I said, I'll give you 30 minutes of sledgehammer. You won't do that.
Were you seriously injured though, and you didn't even realize it? Maybe.
Yeah, my glute was
So
torn.
Jesus.
Like, yeah.
Any broken bones or?
No, just a lot of bone bruising. I mean, I had serious injuries from like my lower back down into my thigh area, like serious stuff. A lot of bone bruising, tore disc, bulging discs in my neck. The bruising was significant. When you bump yourself on a table, you kill fat is what happens, and your body absorbs that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I hit that side rail, the amount of fat that was killed, it was crazy. It was like a groove. Like you could, if you ran your hand across my butt, you would feel where that side rail
bent
hit.
it completely out. Jesus.
Yeah, you'd feel it was broken. It was just dead. So long term, that turned into congealed blood that has still not gone away, but there's just so much it couldn't absorb. And my doctor, like a month after the accident, he's like, it's like we should suck all that fluid out. And I think he's right, because that's actually caused me a whole lot of problems.
Jesus. You're so lucky you didn't hit your head.
I am lucky I didn't hit my head. And, you know, I talk to people, especially in Minnesota, you hear a lot of comments like, what do I need a life vest for? I can swim. You know, if you can't swim, you shouldn't be on a boat. You don't need a life vest. It's like, I can swim. I mean, I was taught the skills to do it. I have a lot of experience in a lot of different types of water, lake, river, pools, ocean. I had my life vest on.
People like to say all this, but they're never been put in a situation like this.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can't let your ego get involved with anything on the water, because if anything happens on the water, it's going to usually happen. I mean, they happen quick, right? Like,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, yes.
When you least expect it.
Yeah.
Every story, everything I post, everything I've seen, everybody tells me it happens fast, and
Yeah.
you don't expect it. Even though like you're the most experienced guy out there, a lot of the professional captains I know, charter captains, all this stuff, man, it's their number one thing is like always got to think worst case scenario.
Yeah, you do.
And I mean, it might get to the point where it can become annoying, you know, but it's really, it's not. A lot of people have a lot of respect for that. And that's my goal. Hopefully get some of these kids aware, like, hey, you don't look like an idiot wearing one of these life jackets, you know, like, I think it's starting to turn around. I go out there and see kids all the time now wearing them. A lot of them even put their boat name on it or their logo. It's sweet looking. I think.
You're spot on with that.
Yeah.
Everything you just said is spot on. From my accident, I got involved with National Safe Boating Council by way of what their program called Waves of Hope. And it's people who have either lost somebody, which is a majority, unfortunately, or people like me and Carter and Hunter who have survived. And I am telling you, the common denominator is how fast it happens.
Every time.
No one expects it, and it happens so fast. It's unbelievable.
When at the summit where I met you, I was. It is crazy to see. Well, I'm so used to living on the coast, so I mean, all the stories I hear. But that was an eye opener for how much actually, happens in the inland and the lakes and the water. And I guess you're very experienced, but there's also a lot of people that it's very seasonal there, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, and the whole summit and everything that goes on, and all these nonprofits are doing such a damn good job at like trying to educate people. I think that's the most important thing, in my opinion. The lack of education, there's not much that's required to be done to go drive a boat.
And people don't want to do it.
What's the age there in Minnesota is it 15
to
or
operate? It's probably 14 or 16.
Yeah,
I'm not sure which
every
one it
state's
is.
different. I think it's 15 here. I forget. But yeah, no, we're in the process of making our own course. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, when I met you, what did I say to you? You probably don't remember because there's a lot of stuff going on. But I said
there was a lot going on.
I said, yeah, there was. Yeah, I'll help you remember. I said, nice to meet you. I said, quite honestly, the morbid curiosity. It was. I mean, some accidents are comical, right? It's kind of funny to see people bounce off stuff harmless.
Yeah. Harmless,
but those are harmless and probably a small percentage of accidents.
But I try to get like the true story though, because a lot of it's BS too.
Yeah,
and it's important to get the true story. But I think my ultimate goal is, like I said, focus on the youth, like our future captains and boaters that are going to be out there, because they pay attention. They look up to our page. They love it. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Sometimes getting your finger telling you what to do is annoying. So. My goal is to utilize the content we have that we've collected over the past 6 years and put it together and build our own state course, approved course. I think every state's different, so we'll divvy it out. But these courses are boring. I don't know. Like when your kid does his, you'll notice it too. Like some of the
I've done it.
Yeah, some of them suck.
I like it personally, but that's my personality. Yeah, you're right. It is.
Some of them are like some of the ones that are for free.
Well, ours was like 15 hours, and I like learning those things. I like understanding how to mitigate the risk, right, before it happens, because, and I've thought about this quite a bit, but, to me, especially on the water, and I preach this to my kids, I'm like, every step you take from a safety and good decision perspective, what it's doing is buying you time for somebody to come help you.
Yeah.
Your life vest is buying you the most time you can get, period. Learning how to float on your back as a child is buying you time for an adult or somebody else to come help you. So every step you can be safer, you have a better chance of surviving when something happens.
100%.
Because, hey, you can be awesome. Maybe my boat hits you. And our boat's 4,000 pounds wet, and it's a Boston whaler. It's not going to stop because of a pontoon boat. Oh. It's going to hit it and go right over it or tip it over or something. And some boats, like a capped boat, they turn into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
You can be completely not at fault and have your day ruined and maybe your life taken from you. So every step you can take to be safe is buying you time to have a better chance of surviving a very dangerous activity.
Getting kids in shape.
Yeah.
America's fat.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Well, that's a whole different podcast.
That's a whole different story, but you get what I'm saying. Every little bit.
In my case, that might have helped me, Aaron.
Well, so let's go back to we're 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
Right?
Where were we?
You said you're 20 minutes in, you're just kicking, and I think you said you try to get your jacket off, and
I did get my jacket off. My coat. No, yeah, I gave up on that pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I mean, it felt like an hour, but it was probably like 40 seconds.
You're cramping
right?
up at this point.
30 minutes in is when the cramping happened, and it was brutal. Brutal. I mean, your little side cramp when you're running, my whole body was doing that, and it was interesting. Sasha had the same experience. If you recall that. So then I'm just working.
You said it was hell.
It was terrible. And I'm just working and working and working. Another thing that really helped me, and this is experience, and I was able to think for some reason. I have no idea why. There isn't a doctor that I went to that said, you should have lived through that easily. Every one of them said, how are you here?
Yeah, because you're about 30 minutes in. That's what I've been told and watching TV and all about this. Like hyperthermia starts kicking your brain about that time.
Yeah. That's when you should be shutting down.
Yeah.
Like mentally you should be shutting down. I don't know why it didn't for me. It's really strange. And I'll touch on that in a minute too, because it's bizarre. So I'm working like crazy. And then I recognize I'm working too hard. And this is ocean talking, right? Ocean swimming talking. I'm like, there are waves here. Start riding them. Pulsate with the waves. If you don't know what I'm talking about, waves come in sets. And if you just swim really hard the whole time when they're drawing back to gain that momentum to make the wave, you're wasting your energy. So you swim with the wave, you wait. You swim with the wave, you wait. I'm just saying that because I don't think everybody understands what that means.
No, you're 100% right.
So I started doing that because I needed to save energy. Time, right? Save energy. You get more time to get help. Eventually, actually about 45 minutes into it, I'm done. The world's going dark. I am tired, man. I'm cold. I am tired.
Jeez.
And I'm like, I've at the time I had about a year and a half old and a 3-year-old and a wife. And I'm just done, right? I've worked. I've done a lot, right? 45 minutes swimming in this cold water with
I can't believe you made it
blown
that
out
long.
glute. Me neither. And I'm like, I just can't disappear. That's what I was thinking at that point. Like, get your life vest back on, because I'm straddling it, right? Because I needed the buoyancy to keep my head above the water.
That would be my. I mean, I'm just thinking in my head, if I was in that situation, yeah, I would want to get that back on, because if my body's locking up, then I can't hold on to that thing anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
you threw it back on.
I got it back over my shoulders, but my hands didn't work because, true to form, everything they tell you, this is a strong message. There's a lot of experience out there with boating, water, temperatures. They're telling you the truth. My hands didn't work. So I got it on, but I couldn't clasp it. And so it wasn't on. I'm like, well, if it's not clasped,
You can't get your
it might
hand-
just fall off and my body's gone anyways. I'm like, get back to work. So I took it off again, straddled it, kept working for, about another 15 minutes.
Jesus.
And then I saw the sheriff's boat over by mine, because mine had moved quite a ways away. And I'm like, oh, cool. I mean, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Those are the people that save you, and they do. Those are the people that save you. This is great. They're over there. I'm like, how are they going to see me? It's terrible. It's terrible weather. The waves are terrible, and it's really hard to see people in the water.
I was gonna say that came to my mind. I was like, is your vision starting to lock up and everything just kind of fading?
At the 45-minute mark, the world was kind of going dark.
Yeah.
And I was just, so cold. I'm not a doctor, but cold water, what happens is your body starts sucking the blood into the organs that save you.
And taking away from your brain.
Everything else goes away. That's why my fingers didn't work. That's why the vision starts getting dark. You get kind of tunnel vision, which you get automatically from stress. So the world was getting pretty dark. It never locked up. It was just kind of like fading away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it other than that.
You put it spot on.
So I see the sheriff's boat over there. And I'm like, that's cool. Someone saw something, right? And I can't wait to tell that story because it's incredible. And then I see, and they're a long ways away from me, and then I see him turn towards me and just gun it. And this is the weird thing. This is about the hour mark for me, right? So I've been in this cold water for about an hour.
That's
and
insane.
The first thought in my head, what would the first thought in your head be if you were in the water and you saw a boat flying at you like that?
Freaking please come to me. Like,
yeah. Close. The first thought in my head was, they're coming right at me.
Oh, they're going to hit you.
Yeah. I'm like, are they going to run me over? It's the first thought in my head.
And the waves were clear. Like, they probably couldn't see it. Yeah.
Right. So that's a great point. And I'm friends with the deputy who pulled me out of the water, and I've talked to him. He's like, I don't know how, but I saw you. And I used the last of my energy to reach up as high as I could and wave my arms, and he happened to barely see me. And so they did shoot right at me, and I'm like, God, don't run me over. And this is the strangest thing. It's terrible, right? And now this is a high-pressure situation for him. He's got someone living in this terrible condition that he knows it's been going on. He knows for a fact it's been going on for at least 30 minutes, right? 30 minutes of deploying, getting out there, getting the call, deploying, getting out there, being by my boat, and then seeing me. So that's a high-stress situation.
Did somebody report it?
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay,
That's a really cool thing. So they come up to me and, imagine, well, you hit the sandbar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Nathan comes up to me and I could see that, and I think I was saying it. I know I was thinking it. I'm like, because there's little doors that they try to get to you. I'm like, you're not going to get me. And he'd have to circle back around. I'm like, okay, you got me this time.
Mm-hmm.
But I could still judge that, which is, I should not have been able to. And I'm not Superman. I'm not special. I have no idea why I was still able to do that. But my brain still worked, and I think that was a big part of this. But you can't count on that.
Well, yeah,
and I can't count on that happening again.
No. Because I would think you pass out, water, your head's in the water, you die, you drown.
Yeah. And I was still straddling my life vest because I would have drowned if I had just worn it traditionally.
You think you would have just got tired out and rolled over face first?
Yeah, no question.
Jeez.
And straddling your life vest is like sitting on a ball.
I'm still
right?
struggling to
So it's gonna
picture
kick
that,
you
but
over.
I think I get it.
What do you mean?
So the
well,
life jacket's like a U.
yeah.
So you just basically sat out like a twist.
No. I put it between my legs.
Gotcha.
That was
and you didn't feel this?
I was working, man.
Yeah, you're working.
I needed to do what needed to be done. And that was the best option I could think of at the time. and it allowed me to still swim and work. And, there wasn't a lot of resting because if you rest, the waves are going to roll over your head.
I mean, I'm just picturing if it was me and I started resting, I would probably give up. Not give up, but like my body would give up, even though I don't want it to.
There's probably a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the reasons why I say anyone who's been in that situation didn't make it. I absolutely understand why and how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because, right, I mean, fortunately, I did the whole toe thing out of the water early, and I still had a decent amount of energy, and I recognized the stupidity and danger of it. And I say stupidity because I was spending energy, back to the time thing, right? I'm spending energy to make my toes feel comfortable. Guess what doesn't matter if you don't make it? How comfortable your toes are, right? So get to work.
It's cool to be able to hear you tell your story because you did something right, obviously you made it. I mean, it's cool now. Other people can kind of reference if God forbid it were to happen to somebody else. I know I watch a lot of Navy SEAL training and all that, and they do something similar. They put people in cold ass water and train them like that to see how long can you take it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. You should watch some of that on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I will. Maybe I won't. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe in a year or so.
So, all right, we're back. It was tough to get you on the boat, right?
So they did get to me, and when I raised up and waved my arms, that was it. That was the last of my energy. And by the time they got to me, I was literally at the side of their boat, and they're throwing the throwable. And by the way, those little square ones,
they suck.
That wouldn't have
You
saved
saw what
me.
I had on my boat. I had the ring.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. A ring or the like lifeguard rectangle ones.
Yep.
That's what they had.
Where you can clip it on your back too. Yeah.
And they threw it and missed because it's terrible out, right? I mean, they're doing the best they can, which was amazing work that they did. Those guys were amazing. It's terrible out. They're throwing and missing. Finally, I just told them, and I really thought I was going to die at the side of their boat. I said, guys, I am done. I'm going under. And the next throw like bounced at me, and I was able to lay over it, and like I was just out of energy. I had nothing left.
What kind of boat were they on?
I don't know what it is. I mean,
center console.
Yeah.
They weren't able to kind of just pull up side and just try to grab you.
It's terrible, man.
It's
terrible
that bad.
weather. Damn. Oh yeah, it was terrible. And when I got over their throwable, which was attached to a rope, that's when I thought, and this is crazy because I'm right next to their boat, right? I'm like 5 or 10 feet away. Maybe I have a chance to live today. That's what I thought at that point. And then they got me over to the door, and Deputy Nathan, he grabbed me and just yanked me and threw me up on the boat.
I would have too. I would have just.
He did it himself. He told me later. And my legs were bruised.
That's his adrenaline coming in.
That's what he said. He's like, I had to get you. And then I do remember this. So I get on his boat and I throw up, belly full of cold water, right? And I'm laying there, and they put a blanket on me, and he's like, man, I want to go faster because you need help, but it's so bad out here. I'm like, dude, take your time. Like,
how'd you feel when you got on the boat?
Well, I mean, there's
like mentally and physically.
That's a really good question, Aaron. I would say I felt closer to being okay. I knew where I was.
Yeah, because you're still not.
Oh no, I'm in serious condition here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm cold.
Yeah,
and I'll just tell you. About an hour after I was out of the water, and they did all kinds of stuff to heat me up, like hot packs underneath my armpits and my crotch and everything. Cranked up the heat in the ambulance. My temperature was like 93 degrees an hour after I was out of the water with that heat. So I think they say it's like 86 or 87 where your body just shuts down. I had to have been close to that.
You had to have been.
Yeah.
If that was, how long did it take you to get in on an ambulance?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I was pretty shocked by then. So
Dude.
Deputy Nathan, that's his first name. He's like, I want to go fast, but it's really bad out, but you need help. I'm like, just take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Just get safe. Get us safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this again.
At
least not right now. I need.
Yeah.
I need to,
Are you completely locked up?
Yeah, I was pretty much catatonic. I mean, I was talking, but I wasn't like fluidly talking. Like it would be statements. Like sharp.
Dude, any 5 minutes later, that's insane.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A commercial break, like 3 minutes. I'd say I was 3 minutes away. I mean, 3 minutes from...
Because when you told me that when you saw the boat and they were coming there and you said you still weren't like confident that I made it yet, that's when you know you were right there.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't until it really wasn't until I was laying on their boat where I thought, now I'm probably going to make it, right? But this is where we're going to get to the whole. Well, let's go into one more thing. So they get me.
You're in the ambulance.
They get me on the ambulance, and they're like, "How long were you in?" You know, this is funny to me because I do not drink and operate, right? Never, never. And they're like, "You drinking today?" I'm like, to me, it's like, that is the dumbest question.
That was the first question.
Well, I don't know if it was first,
Still.
but it definitely was a question.
Yeah.
They're asking me what hospital to go to. I'm like, I don't know. Like, you know, only I'm not talking. I'm like, I don't know. You know, terrible. I'm like, can you call my wife? But it was more like a 1 minute, can you call my wife? And I spelled out her phone number. And so they did. And they took me to a great place. But they asked me, they're like, how long do you think you were in the water? And I'm like, the first thing out of my mouth, I'm like, what time is it? And they told me, I said, that means it was about an hour. And the sheriffs came over. So it must have taken some time. I don't remember all this stuff. It must have taken some time to get me into the ambulance. Because the sheriff, I do remember them coming over and say, the circle on his graph started about an hour ago, so that has to be right.
Damn.
How do I think like that, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to. I mean, and again, this is not me saying I'm Superman or something special.
You're just telling it how it was.
It's just amazing that I was able to think, and pure luck. I guess the message from that is don't count on being able to think if you're in a situation. And where does it start? Wear your life vest. That's number one.
And well, also too, you just mentioned it earlier, like you can prepare yourself for situations like this by education and staying in shape and thinking about like teaching your kids how to swim at a young age. You know, all that leads up to this kind of stuff, like to be able to survive.
Yeah.
You know,
it does truly. It's all just a collection of things.
Yeah.
And if you, in my case, the good that I did barely outweighed the bad. Barely. And I didn't do much bad. My engine cut off switch. It could have probably been like a 20-minute thing in the water. Way easier.
Could have hop right back on. Yeah.
I mean, I was still had serious trauma, but I would have likely got back on the boat and got back to shore and then maybe had to call for help to put it on the trailer. So my two big things were not dealing with the weather properly, and that includes the waves. You know, I should have, looking back, I'm sure you would have dealt with the situation, then powered down. I didn't do that. I tried to power down right away because it was bad.
The weather's one thing I talk about a lot.
Yeah. And this is the killer thing is even the Apple weather app, which is okay, there's way better ones, it shows you hour by hour what the weather is. You know, pay attention to that. Yeah, it changed for me. I should have.
There's a lot of different resources. I'm a big fan of My Radar. I showed you that earlier. I mean,
I have that. Yeah.
It's the radar. You can literally say, okay, shit, it's coming. We got a boogie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, weather's so important, man. Every story I've heard of either somebody missing at sea or whatever, weather related.
And you know this, time on the water goes fast, right? So I'm going to go out for a couple, I don't know, are you married or?
No, I got a girlfriend though.
Okay.
We've been dating for like 3 years.
Okay,
so.
Good for you. I'm sure you've told her, I'm just going to run out for a couple hours. And you show up 5 hours later and she's like, where have you been? You said 2 hours.
Well, remember I was telling you about the InReach, the Garmin InReach?
Yeah.
So it's not only is I can dive with it, but it's basically a sat phone too. So I have an app on my phone where I can text her if we usually leave at like 4 a.m. We don't get back till like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And I can text her just peace of mind. Hey, on our way back in, about 15 miles out.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So let me tell you something funny.
All right, what you got?
This is in the middle of all this. At the time, I'm not going to mention the brand. I have a smartwatch, and it didn't have a cellular card. And the company's doing all these commercials on how you can press a button and get help. And this is bad and funny. And I actually laughed. As I'm going through all this situation, I'm laughing because I'm like, wait a minute. I've got this smartwatch and I remember their commercials. Maybe there's a way I can notify somebody. Because I didn't have the cellular card, it had to connect to my phone, which I do remember that flying off the boat. So I didn't have my phone. It wasn't on the boat because my watch had to connect to that. So it's 100 feet down. It's gone. I'm playing with the menu trying to find this. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to call it the SOS button.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I'm almost there. Like, I think it's here. Ding. you have a new exercise accomplishment. I'm like, you son of a gun. So I go back in the menu. Right as I'm getting there, ding, I'm like, over and over and over again. I almost took it off and threw it. I'm like, I started laughing. I'm like, I need to be exercising more. And this watch is really pissing me off.
You thought about everything.
I tried a lot of things. Yeah. It was so funny.
Yeah,
though.
man,
I'm like, I can't believe this.
The inReach is sweet because it's only about this big. And I mean, it's basically like an EPIRB. As long as the battery doesn't die.
Yeah. Just a button, right?
Yeah. SOS
That's a
button.
Garmin product, you say? Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like
Affordable
that.
too.
Yeah,
I
that's
talk
good.
really highly about it. I freaking love the thing. Because some of the EPIRB, but you got to keep in mind though too, it's on a battery charge. So
Is that the one that connects to your chart plotter as well?
it can, I believe. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it would mark it too?
It would mark that, and it'll connect basically to, I mean, SOS, like first responders, Coast Guard, all that. I talked to a guy that was out sailing. He wasn't under immediate distress, but they were in some nasty weather and kind of wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Then
blah, blah,
call
blah.
for help.
Well, he said it was peace of mind because you don't want to say Mayday, Mayday, Mayday yet.
Well, yeah.
But he was able to text and let people know, like, hey, shit's going on right now. I don't know what's going on. We're having issues with the boat.
Is that like a pan call that he did?
Sorta, yeah. But
Okay.
he didn't want to. Forget what his reasoning. He was saying he didn't want to talk too much about the story. I actually don't even know the whole story. But he said the inReach saved his life.
Well,
We didn't get into too much details. He didn't want to talk about it, really, honestly. And I once again, I appreciate you even talking about this story because I know it's definitely not easy to do.
All right, a big shout out to the Water Sports Foundation for helping us out on this podcast. Their Lessons for Life project that's funded by the U.S. Coast Guard is an amazing thing. They help bring on people that have experienced traumatic injuries or life-threatening situations on the water to help others realize what mistakes they made and ultimately help save lives in the long run. So big shout out to you guys. We really appreciate it.
Well, I told you before when we first talked about doing this podcast, I'm like, absolutely, because I got lucky, and there's a lot of good things that happened too. I did work, I did a ton of work. There's some pieces that we haven't got to yet that really worked out. The Water Patrol,
Top notch.
truly heroes,
Yeah.
right? True, terrible. And one of the guy that there was a deputy, a sheriff's deputy, and then 2 volunteers, and I think they said that one guy was like maybe his first or second trip out, and the other guy was only a few weeks in. So that's a nice start to their volunteering life.
Learn
right?
real fast.
Yeah. And the deputy that saved me, that pulled me out, he has found people that are in a similar situation. He's never found someone alive. So that tells you, and I don't think they had life vests on. So guess what?
The life vest saved your life.
Wear a life vest.
Yeah.
That's number one.
And kill switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you switch now, and I have one. I freaking love it. Is the Felmarine? Well, I think there's quite a few now, but Felmarine is the one I have. The man overboard wireless one, and I preach to kids because I know the kids don't want to wear the freaking lanyard, but dude, there's an affordable option now. It's Coast Guard approved. You got one, right?
Yeah, I have the first mate system on our boat now.
Yeah.
Felmarine was awesome. I don't recall how I connected with them, but I talked with Paul. Did you ever talk with Paul there?
Yep.
Okay, great guy. So nice. So helpful.
And Mark too.
Yeah. Mark's the new Paul, right?
Yep.
Paul moved on to something else, and Mark's. I haven't talked with Mark much, but as an organization, they were great. I mean, Paul. I'm sitting here because of Paul. To be honest with you, he introduced me to Waves of Hope, which got me involved with the National Safe Boating Council, which led me to the IBWSS, which led me to you. So that's kind of the dots that connected. But what he also did, what was awesome, was he helped me get I wouldn't say a program, but he helped me with pricing and purchasing equipment. Their Man Overboard Plus is a simpler version. I bought a number of those and gave them out. And so I have gotten a lot of their product deployed in the field. If people are actually using it or not, I have no idea.
Well,
you never get follow-up on that stuff.
Before Qualified Captain really even took off, when I was working with Cito, we had them on there.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're working on a job like that, you can't wear a lanyard.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, we're grabbing lines, towing boats. So when I tried that, I was like, dude, this is sweet, And then when the law came into effect, and as I got more involved, I promote the hell out of it, dude. I think it's a no-brainer to have reality is, at first nobody's gonna wear it, and then I think he was telling me too that they're gonna have something where you'll get like a something that you can put on your console or something saying, hey, like I have the Felmarine, so that if law enforcement wants to see it, like, okay.
Did he tell you that at IBWSS?
No, I think he emailed it to me recently. He's
because I mentioned that to
yeah, no,
their engineering guy. I'm like, are those stickers? You know, did you see his little sample
I didn't
thing?
see
I'm
him
like,
yet,
are
but
those stickers?
he emailed me. I was just this week actually. He's like, I got to mail you your banner or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I'm like, you should give those out with the devices.
That's smart.
That way people know what they're dealing with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's funny that they followed up. That's great. It's great that they followed up.
We'll see. You're taking your story and what happened to doing stuff like this is freaking amazing. You've done a lot already, man. I've been following you and your story and all the work that you put into the community about it. It's awesome because it's ultimately going to save other lives and prevent it from happening again.
Well, it's people like you that listen and share it. And, you know, I know you met the boat boss, Kim Swear, and, you know, she felt really, she's a very large dealer in Florida.
Huge.
And I think she might be the biggest dealer in the United States.
Yeah.
Pretty big. She felt really bad at the conference. One of the nights she was like, I feel so bad. I haven't been promoting safety enough. And I saw a video a week after the conference of one of her boats, and she has sexy videos. They're down in Miami area, awesome boats, right? Like really sweet boats. All these young people on there. And since the conference, those young people now wear life vests. So people like you and Kim and, you know, National Safe Boating Council, Felmarine, Coast Key is another wireless product that works really well. There are all these people out there that are doing things to help spread the message, and you know the marketing is going the right direction. It's not quite there. I mean, something I talked with Mustang and Kent Outdoors. Kent's like they own like Onyx and companies like that. I said maybe we need to start marketing when kids turn, let's say the age is 10. Like in Minnesota, I swear people celebrate they don't have to wear a life vest anymore. So maybe turn it around.
Yeah.
When they hit that age, then the kid gets to pick which one they wear.
Yeah.
And get their buy-in
or gets to get their custom, you know, inflatable something. Yeah.
So that the culture changes, because the culture is very much, you watch those Haul Over Inlet videos.
Yeah.
There's little kids on there without life vests, and man, I wouldn't go through that.
No.
And
that's a whole nother story. Dude.
It is.
It's
it really
bad
is
over there.
But it's like people view laws as once I'm here, I no longer have to do it. Well, that's not the case. The laws are the 80-20 rule, right? Try to get as many people as you can saved. But we really need to work on the culture of you own your life.
Yeah.
And your first step on a boat is wearing your life vest, your PFD, because that's what's going to buy you time to keep you alive.
Absolutely.
You know, you go overboard, and where are you at?
I had a good thing. Besides, the life jacket's important, but back to the kill switch or engine cutoff switch.
Absolutely.
This guy made a good point the other day, because I've been giving away any purchase online for Boating Safety Month or the week. We're giving away free. I got universal lanyards. Just a simple.
Yeah, I gave one to somebody.
Yeah,
so you need a spare here.
A guy messaged me, DM'd me, and made a good point. He's like, you should always have 2 or 3 of these on the boat. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because if somebody falls off, then you got to put another one on to go grab them.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, shit, I didn't think about that.
Well, I gave yours that I got from you to another guy because he didn't have a spare. I'm like, you got a spare lanyard? He's like, no. I'm like, take this.
Any purchase online, whether you buy a sticker, whatever, you're getting a free one. We've got them all with the floats and with our logo on it. So,
but back to the wireless engine cutoff systems. You know, it is hard to run a boat being tethered to something. That's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
Especially docking and coming up and
everything, right? Pulling your fenders as you're going through, no way.
Yeah.
You should be at your helm, but if you're only engaged, people are going to do it.
Oh,
right?
I hope one day all the motor manufacturers just do it. Or
I asked Mercury, Brunswick, I'm like, this is your product.
Yeah.
This is your boat product. Brunswick owns a lot of boat companies, right? They also own Mercury. Mercury developed the first mate. That's right. The engine cutoff system. I'm like, why isn't it OEM? Why don't you have it on everything? They're like, oh, that's a good point. So we are definitely getting there. But the wireless ones are awesome because they take the excuse away.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no question about it. My boat doesn't run if I don't have this on me.
I like it too. You put it on all your passengers, your dog.
Yeah, right.
You know,
I do. I have them on my kids. I don't know if I sent you photos.
It's smart,
of that.
and then it doesn't kill it, but it The alarm goes off, right?
Yeah, and with First Mate, it's pretty cool because it'll actually mark it for you, and you can see in the app. And
I got to get that set up. I only have it just for me. Because I got the dog on there all the time, and I always wonder, like, I was on the sea towboat once, and I was like, where's the dog? But he was on there, but it's
well, you have a nice center console boat, right?
Yeah.
And what's that do? Like 50?
a little faster than that.
Sure, but 50's fast.
50, 60 on a boat's fast.
Let me ask you, if you're running the boat, and you've already said it, and anyone who's halfway good at running a boat is very busy operating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in the back messing with your bait box there, your live well, whatever you want to call it, and I slip and fall off, how many miles away can you be before you know I'm gone?
Well, another thing too, I've got a pretty high seats there, and I really can't see much. Now, the seats high is great because now when I'm up sitting and running the boat, I can see everything. But if I'm standing, I can't really look over. You know? So,
and I could go off. With the right system, it alerts. It beeps and says, "You lost Jack. Turn around."
It's affordable.
It's absolutely.
If you can afford a boat, that's what I tell people all the time.
If you can afford a rod and reel set for the ocean, you can afford.
And if you can
a wireless
and
system.
you can afford the tow memberships, all this stuff.
Yeah.
There's just so much excuses where I'm just like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
But
there are also lower cost alternatives. So I do use the First Mate. I just got a Coast Key. They sent me one. I'm gonna check it out. I like how simple it is.
Yeah, very simple with the alarm that goes off, right?
Yeah, it's a wireless, but they have other features too. My boat, it doesn't really fit for it, but one of the features of the Coast Key is you can actually put a code in to start your boat. So you don't need a key. Mm-hmm. You can actually, so you'd be like, Aaron, I'm gonna borrow your boat. All right, the code is
that's smart.
152543, whatever it is. And then they also have features on there like, I don't know, turning on any auxiliary. You can connect it to one of their buttons. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool stuff. Doesn't fit in my world, right?
It might be a little too much, yeah.
For me, it is.
Yeah.
But from a wireless kill switch system, it works really well. Some lower cost options, and I was trying to find the name of it before I came on here when we were riding over here. I couldn't find the email. There's you saw the lady there with the little audible.
Yeah, oh man, it's going to drive me nuts that I can't think of the name.
I know,
right
and I
now.
feel so bad I can't mention
I can
her.
find it, but
it's a product that's been out in Europe for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, it has.
Yeah, it has. It's just being introduced to the U.S. market. It's an audible alarm.
I'll see if I can find
so
it.
if it's connected to your boat but not connected to you, it just requires a little bit of tension, which we'll have. It progressively gets louder and louder. As you don't have like
your seatbelt.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing, right? And so, I mean, there are a lot of options. I personally like the wireless because it takes the excuse away.
Yeah.
And
it's wearing a watch.
And honest, I mean, we have small kids. I use the First Mate, and I actually still wear the kill cord too. Or I'm sorry, the actual attached engine cutoff switch.
Lanyard, yeah.
Lanyard, yes. Because I want the comfort of being able to yank that thing if my kids come up and do something dumb. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to jump off.
First thing I get on my boat, I showed you earlier. I tell people where the life jacket, all that stuff is, but don't touch these. Those throttles are very sensitive.
Yeah.
Just get the hell away from here.
We have very similar discussions.
But man, let's go back though to, so you're in the ambulance and you made it to the hospital. Everything. How were you feeling then? I mean,
I was alive.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the hospital, I was still freezing, right? I'm very, very cold. But the guys who brought me in were sweating. I mean, they were just drenched because they had the ambulance cranked up. They're just sweating, right? And I'm still cold, but they did that for me.
Yeah.
I mean, these first responders, the water patrol, the sheriff, they truly put their lives on hold to help people, and it's an amazing thing. I mean, if you're fortunate and haven't had to depend on someone to keep you alive, good for you. But knowing that there are people out there that will put their lives on hold or at risk to keep you alive,
I don't think they get enough credit, in my opinion.
They don't.
And we support them all the time.
Yeah.
We do a lot I just posted a video the other day. I don't know if you saw it, that kid just ripping past all those people in the water. And
I love what you're doing, by the way.
No, I mean, we'll call them out. And I actually had the sheriff's department reach out to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like, if it's going to be blatant as they make it, there's no excuse to not, hey, wake the hell up, kids.
Yeah.
We can't be doing that.
Yeah. So speaking of credit, I need to give my wife a shout out here real quick.
Yeah.
She's napping with our kids. She gets a phone call, doesn't answer it. Gets a phone call, doesn't answer it. Answers it. It's the sheriff's. We just pulled your husband out of a lake. He's going to the hospital. Is he alive? We don't know.
Jesus.
What condition is he in? We don't know. But we know he's in an ambulance and he's going to this hospital. That's the call she gets. So then she finds someone to come watch our kids. And we don't have family in Minnesota. So that's not an easy thing in the first place. Our neighbors are very, very nice to do it. And that's a big deal. So she takes the kids over there. She's driving to the hospital and passes an ambulance on the side of the road with its lights on. So normally when people code or die and need to be worked on, they pull over. That's what she passes on the way to the hospital. What are the odds, right?
Yeah.
I have never done that in Minnesota, and she did that day. So she gets this call, no real information other than we pulled your husband out of a lake and he's in bad shape. That's it. Alive or not, we don't know. So
That sucks.
Oh,
There should be. I wish there's a little bit better information. Like
there is
he's
none.
stable.
Yeah. They didn't know.
So she's flipping out. She's running over there.
So it's possible she went through more than I did, to be honest with you.
I can't imagine.
So she tells me later, she's like, I'm trying to figure out what song to play at your funeral, what's going to happen with the kids. I'm like, it's only like 20 minutes. Like, how did you process all this stuff that fast? So, and then also when you come in that kind of condition, the priority is not to get you in the system. The priority is to get you medical care. So I'm back. They're working on me, right? They're doing all these things. One nice thing was the saline was heated.
Okay.
Normally it's kind of cool and burns.
Yeah.
It was like comforting, right?
Yeah.
But of course I'm freezing. Right?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, this is nice. So she shows up and she had gone to the ER and they didn't know. They're like, there's no one here with that name. So she's like, did they not take him here because he was in the ambulance on the side of the, like all this stuff. Overwhelming. I mean, and then there she is. And it was just amazing to see her, right? And
could you imagine passing that ambulance? I would be like, do I stop here?
I know. I mean, honestly, that she went through more than I did that day. If you can imagine that.
I can't.
She went through more than I did that day. And then, I think I need to pick it up because we're burning a lot of time here.
But
no
rush, man.
The trauma of it cost me months. I couldn't sit on the floor. Usually by the end of the day,
That's a good question I was going to ask you. Like, what was... Yeah, I mean, some people I feel like think, okay, you warm up, you're fine. That's not the case.
Well, I had severe injuries, right? I tore my glute, which... So the incident happened on Saturday, and all the hospital did was keep me alive temperature-wise and kick me out. Really bizarre. I got no shoes on, right? I don't wear shoes on my boat.
You just walked out there without shoes.
I got no shirt on, right? They cut it all off you. So I did have my life vest. They saved that and gave that to me. And it was still full.
Hang that on the wall.
Right? It actually stayed full for like 3 weeks. So we're leaving, and it's raining because that horrible storm came in. And I'm walking through the parking garage with my wife to our minivan, and I got no shoes on, and we're leaving. I'm like, I shouldn't be leaving here. I knew how bad I was hurt. I didn't know what. I just knew. And so Monday I actually went back and was treated for the trauma. So back to giving my wife a lot of credit, a ton of credit. I basically disappeared from my kid's life for months. I mean, I'm there, but I can't pick them up.
And they were how old, you said?
They're about a year and a half, and 3.
So they're not even ready. It can understand.
They did understand.
Did they?
Because our 3-year-old, actually, after a couple months, he came up to me one day, and this is so sad. He apologized. He's like, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm like, sorry for what? Well, I must have done something because you don't really hang out with us anymore.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm like, holy cow. No, that is not the case at all. Like, let's talk about this. But I couldn't sit on the floor. By 5 p.m., I was shot. I mean, your glute's a huge muscle, and it's a painful muscle, right? And I'm on serious medicine, right? I'm taking serious painkillers 3 times a day, going to the doctor all the time, going to different, all kinds of stuff. So I pretty much stepped out of my life for 9 months, I'd say. 9 months or so. But the first 3 to 6 months, I was gone. Like, she couldn't count on me to do anything. Couldn't take the trash out, couldn't even bend over. And by the way, if you ever seriously injure your glute or your hips or something, tie your shoes before you pull your pants up because that pressure is a lot, right?
I couldn't imagine.
So my wife gets a lot of credit. She did a ton of stuff.
She probably and also took care of you for
absolutely, and she took care of the family and the kids and that call and that drive, I can't imagine. And she saw me white as white gets, right? Because I'm looking like this shirt.
I saw the video from the police camera.
Yeah.
Or not the video. No, I didn't even watch the video. I just saw the picture. And you looked, what is it? Like,
Yeah.
it's your shirt.
Yeah, because he had a body cam on.
Well, and
that was captured
can we
on
get
there.
that footage?
Yeah, I think I'll send it to you.
Send it to us again because I'd like to maybe incorporate this.
Yeah.
But so I asked Sasha this, and I'm going to ask you too. Like, what was your experience when you first got back on a boat again after that? How long did it take?
Well, so let's talk about that for a moment. The sheriffs had to get in front of our boat because there was some guy putting his dock in and he wasn't listening to them. So our boat was wide open throttle. It's circling, but that's a pretty powerful motor. So it T-boned them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a shout out to Boston Whaler in Brunswick. It crunched a gel coat around the rub rail. Absolutely operational. There's some other things. They had to throw ropes.
That's what everybody's. But I've been learning now. Just toss a dock line out there. Try to.
All right, they did.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, so
it's easier said than done.
Way easier, and they actually called in, who I now know and friends with, Gabriel Gabor on the lake. He's like institutional in Lake Minnetonka, right? They own a lot of docks. They had a marina, Tonka Bay Marina. He's the one the sheriffs call for help with stuff like this, and I've talked to him quite a bit. That super supportive, great people. Him and his daughter. Gigi, wonderful people. I swear Gigi checked on me more than anybody in my life. She was consistent checking in with me. They had our boat because they helped the sheriffs recover it. And like a fool on that Saturday, I'm like, oh, I'll come get it tomorrow. I wasn't moving tomorrow.
No.
And they insisted. They're like, don't. Just leave it here. We store boats for the winter. We have a huge shed. They had multiple buildings. It's no problem. Leave it here. Mm-hmm. Don't even think about it. Just heal and get back to your family.
Fine, yeah.
Wonderful people, right?
That's awesome.
I'm like, please put a bill together. Insurance can pay it. Donate it to something. And Gabriel's adamant. He's like, I am not going to profit off of your incident. He just refused. Just the nicest people, right? So our boat's beat up. I can't even climb in the boat, even on land, for the first 9 months minimum, right? Because it's really hard. So the next year, I took it out. We went on a camping trip and took it out there. And your question was, what was it like the first time I got back on it? Concerning. I'm pretty safe, believe it or not. In spite of this incident, I'm pretty safe. And that's why
you were wearing your life jacket. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this for a moment before. Like, the good stuff that I did barely outweighed the bad stuff, right?
100%.
So I'm pretty safe anyways. And I was just way cautious. Now, I've been running it more because of Waves of Hope. You know Hunter Bland. You've met Hunter. He's a great guy.
I want to get him on too.
Yeah, his story's scary.
Yeah, I know. I would love to get him on this.
So a quick version of his story. He's a college fisherman. Now he's a pro fisherman. And he's on plane and his steering broke and he crashed. And he happened to catch it on film because, kids like GoPros.
They have all, yep.
Unbelievable how that came out of nowhere. And I hear all these things. Oh, he's crossed the wake. He did this, dumb. Like, no, he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
His steering broke and he crashed.
And that's what happens, man. I always reach out to people and said, hey, was it mechanical or not? We want to know the details first before we go and post anything.
Yeah.
So
I the reason I brought up Hunter was because on this camping trip, we had the kids with us, and I won't go on plane with them. Because what's a 5-year going to do? 5-year-old going to do getting thrown out of a boat at 50 miles an hour, right? Nothing good's going to happen from that. Nothing good's going to happen from you doing that.
My boat, I was a wake-up call. My boat's it's fast. It's great offshore. We get in and out quick, but I caught myself, when I first got it, I'm like, you're going fast, dude. Slow down. Like, look, realize where you are. There's a time and place to go fast, time and place. It was an eye-opener. I was like, okay, I don't even feel like I'm going that fast. Anyways.
So that's a great point, though, Aaron. You're spot on. Mm-hmm. If you feel that, man, slow down. That's your moment, right?
Well, I just I took to myself, I'm like, do I want to be that jackass that's just ripping by everybody? No.
Do I want to be on the qualified captain tonight?
It was just like telling myself, hey, turn it down a little bit, man.
Yeah.
So
I, it's just back to cautious and careful. And
But dude,
you
were
know?
you like, would you like traumatized at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was assuming because Sasha said it was a while before he got back on a boat.
I don't know how he does it, to be honest with you. Yeah. That's a different story. But I'm a Freemason. No witch hunt thing. It's just a group of people that do a lot of good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the guys from the lodge was like, super nice guy. He's like, let's go to dinner together. I'm like, okay, where do you want to go? Let's go to this restaurant. It's right on the lake. You can see where my incident happened. And just being a nice guy. And he is a sincere, nice person. And as I come around the corner and smell the water, because a lot of trauma is associated with smell and colors, instantly I get queasy, right? It's your body does it. It's not you. It happens. And we're sitting there. He's like, oh, you're not hungry? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it to go. Stuff like that. So the trauma is real and it's still there in just the way it is.
You still have the same boat?
Yeah. It's, not much has changed, to be honest with you. More cognizant of weather. I've thought about it, and like I said before, had I managed the situation before I tried to power down, it probably wouldn't have happened.
But the most important thing out of this is, I can't say it enough, it happens quick and it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be safe. I think more now we take this also too and learn how to survive, if it were to happen to you.
Well, that's the scary thing, right? I've shared it, especially right away. I'm like, you guys, this caught me. I'm not a licensed captain, but I do have a lot of time, a lot of experience in good and bad water, swimming, operating a boat, rivers, lakes, pools, ocean. I'm not new to it. Mm-hmm. I'm just not. I got a lot to learn, but I'm not new to it. And it happened to me, and I shared that, and I got blasted. I told you that.
Yeah.
Like the comments that were coming back.
Screw them.
Well, it's unbelievable. Even my own friends, it's like, and the one guy, I'm like, they
have no idea.
You think you're impervious to this happening to you, but when it happens, I hope you're ready. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that like in a threatening way. I'm saying sincerely, I hope you've done as much as you can to give yourself the best chance to survive it, because it can't happen to anybody. That's such a good way to look at it. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you I feel like you were emphasizing on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I don't know. It's okay. It's the same old, like you and I were talking on your boat, when you come up, and I would do it to you. When you come up, I just did it the other day and people were kind of laughing at me, but that like in an admirable way. Like, geez, you're pretty thorough. I'm like, hey, don't touch this. Don't pull this. If I fall off the boat or if I fall on the ground, my boat's big enough I can fall and not fall off it. Pull this red thing. Said, when you get off, if something happens, here's a ladder back here. You open this up.
I've got a whole safety meeting before we even go.
I do too.
Right? Before we take off, it's like, all right, this is where this is.
Your hat flies off. Do not reach for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tell everybody because that's a very common thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, just stop. Mm-hmm. I'll turn around and I got like 2 minutes. The hat will float for like 2 minutes. We'll get it. And part of that too is if you fall off, first thing I'm going to do is shut my motor off. And then I'm going to figure out what's going on, and then I'm going to come back and get you.
Well, and then a lot of people, I've always learned like the Williamson turn too. I don't know if you heard of that.
I haven't.
Basically, you just turn hard to starboard and then go to port. And then first of all, you should look at the current too. And then if you do that first, like figure 8 turn, the boat should slowly drift up on either port or starboard side right onto it. So you don't have to Google Williamson.
Yeah,
turn.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. That makes sense. I just don't want that prop spinning.
No, that's one thing, because we do a lot of diving, and I'm always talking neutral, or kill the motor.
Yeah. My policy is I'm shutting down. I'm going to figure out what's going on, and then I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
And so I tell people that, hey, Aaron, you fall off my boat, I'm going to shut off. Mm-hmm. Don't panic. I'm doing this by design. Mm-hmm. I'm going to shut off, figure out what's going on, where you're probably going to be panicking. Come get me. I'm going to come get you, but this 30 seconds is going to make it so much safer for me to do that. So I give people, well, you're on the boat lecture. Here's what I need from you. Here's, tell me if you see something.
So before we wrap it up too, I
have to tell you the guy who found me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you are doing more now since your accident. Like, you've been helping out a lot of people. You said you've been doing all this training too for, on the water training for young kids. Wasn't there something else that you've been doing, or you just go around and tell the story a lot, right?
I tell the story a lot, but I'm really pressing, like the event in our town is we got a lot of life vests, and Brunswick's actually going to send me a pile of them, which is really cool. They just told me today that I talked to him after I landed. I'm like, your timing's great. Well, now I can share that I'm doing
I like the idea too of like when the kids turn 10, 11, whatever it is, like let's celebrate, like,
Yeah.
push that momentum.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And every Life Fest company I've talked to was like, wait, that's actually a good idea. They say they're going to talk to their marketing. I hope they do, because that is a good idea. But we got to cover the guy who found me.
Yeah,
right?
no, let's do it.
So this will be fairly quick.
Nathan?
No, that's the sheriff deputy.
Yeah. Somebody had to call it in.
Mark.
Okay.
Mark is the guy, and he's a wonderful person.
Damn, we should have had Mark here.
I tried. He couldn't.
Okay.
He's starting a business, and he wasn't able to get away. We talked about it. He just wasn't able to. Yeah, but he's fascinating, right? So to start off with Mark, like 13 years ago, he was diagnosed. Goes back to the other story where all these things just happen, right? 13 years ago, he's diagnosed with 4B bone marrow cancer and lives. And lives. That's his starting point. And he survived
the whole
that.
transplant and all that.
What are the odds?
Yeah,
right. And he's had 3 kids, which he wasn't supposed to have kids. The guy's amazing. He's home. He goes, look at that storm.
Oh, dude, I was gonna say it's coming now.
I'm glad we're here. Not out there.
It's not even dark yet.
It is now.
Yeah.
So he's home. He has a house on a hill that has the perfect view. I swam about 1.2 miles from where my incident happened
Holy shit.
to where they got me. His view is like 1.5 miles. Perfect. This all works out amazing. For some reason, he's working on his wife's car and he wanted to wash his hands so he didn't get the inside dirty. Goes to the sinks, washing his hands. And he's like, that doesn't look right. So he calls in his wife, who's a great person too. Keely, she's great. These are just great people. He's like, look at that. That doesn't look right. She's like, call the sheriffs. So he did. And then he busts out his binoculars and keeps looking, and it's terrible out, right? He said it's the worst weather he's seen on that lake, and they live there. He keeps looking and calls back in and says, I think he's over there, and directs. That's when they turned and shot towards me. It's because of Mark. So get this. He shouldn't even be here, right?
Yeah.
He's a walking miracle, and he's a wonderful person. I can't stress that enough. Mark's a great guy.
You have to introduce me.
Yeah, he's a wonderful person. Outside of this, like if you met him, you'd be like, boy, Mark's a great guy.
Yeah.
He used to work on yachts as a deckhand and was actually trained in how to scan water for objects.
Oh, no way.
So what are the odds? What are the odds?
He survives all that. Yeah, that's crazy.
And
Isn't it weird how a lot of these stories, there's always like, sometimes it's almost like was meant to be, like,
It is. And, there's definitely things happen for whatever
reason. Yeah.
And that's
Somebody's
what Mark
looking down
says.
at you.
That's what Mark said. He's like, you're here for a reason, dude.
Yep.
This all happened for a reason. You're here for a reason. I found out later, and I was talking to him, I guess it was probably about a month ago. I'm like, when are you going to be back? Because they go to Palm Beach every year for a few months through the wintertime because they can, and Minnesota winters can suck, right? So they go live a good life down there. And I'm talking to him like, when are you going to be back? And he's like, oh, so-and-so. And then I thought about it, and I called him back. I'm like, how? You must have been back like right before my accident. He's like, yeah, it was like a day or two before it. So this guy who shouldn't even be here, and thank God he is because he's a wonderful person, and he saved me after my Life Fest. This guy who shouldn't even be here was barely back in town. So 2 days earlier, it wouldn't have happened this way. Has the skills and the drive to do the right thing.
Yeah, quickly.
And and the thought process, and a supportive wife saying, call. How does that work, right? Isn't that amazing?
Things fall together, man.
I know.
Somebody was looking down, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like Sasha's story, It's like
Sasha's very similar story. I really hope you could meet him.
It was his story. It's just the parallels are amazing.
You guys, whether you can while you're here or not, you should try to definitely get a hold of him. And Sasha and Andrew and Jack, who saved him, they are gonna. I pretty much got him convinced to come to the summit too. I think that's gonna keep.
Oh, that'd be powerful.
Yeah, man.
Because he's kind of on the same message as I am.
Yeah, and I think you two together could tell your story in front of a more audience, and it's important for people to hear your perspective on that. I mean, and Sasha too, both very safe people. Maybe made a minor mistake, and didn't let your ego get in the way to come up and still have the conversation with people. Some people that have this, I mean, like, I get it. They don't want to talk about it, but I think I admire the people that do.
Yeah, it was a challenge at first because, like I said, the feedback from most people are, you're an idiot and that can never happen to me.
I'll screw them.
But let me tell you this, at the summit that we were at, There's a lot of people there with a lot of water experience.
Yes. Yes.
Everyone that I talked to about it was very curious and wanted to hear it all.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people that wear their life vests all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're involved with water situations all the time. You know, Coast Guard guys, they were
A
fascinated
lot of them,
by it.
and a lot of them. I was talking to Cal. I don't know if you met Cal in the Coast Guard there.
I don't know.
He's one of the officers in DC, I believe. Well, I forget his role, but anyways, those guys are so humble that like a rescue, like if they had a story was similar to yours, whatever. I mean, it's just another day in the office. You know?
Yeah.
They-
It's an office that they wear their life vests every single
Yeah.
day in, though.
Yep.
And that's so. Does Sasha go out without a life vest anymore?
No, he actually when he was here, right, Drew? I think he had his EPIRB on him too.
Did he?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
he was just showing how you can put it right on your life vest too. They make those little EPIRBs now that
Yeah,
clip
yeah.
on. Oh, I think they've always had them, but
So does Hunter wear his life vest?
yeah.
He's a pro fisherman. He actually wears it while he's fishing, which they don't. The
So
culture is leave your kill switch attached to it. Take it off when you get there.
So I have mine. I have it on my EPIRB on my life jacket, and then when I dive now, I got the InReach on my belt.
Right.
I mean, if I have it, why the hell not? What's the point of even having it if you don't use it?
Yeah. And my point is, you look at all these people with all this experience, yourself included, and they wear it every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. Do you think I'm ever going to be on a boat without a life vest? Hell, I wasn't before. You think I'm going to now?
Yeah. Or the
Right?
kill switch.
Without yeah, exactly. And so if you're a person that thinks, and I mean this in a very nice way, if you're a person that thinks you don't need it for whatever reason, you're making a nearly fatal mistake because that's your first step in staying alive if something happens. And it doesn't have to be you that happens. Anything can happen to you. You know, my friend had a whale come up right by his boat. What if it hit his boat and threw him over and he didn't have a life vest on?
Dude, anything that if there's something crazy happening, it's going to happen on the water, and it's just going to be when you least expect it.
Yeah.
The water is the ocean, lake, whatever is no joke.
It's compounding.
It's very
The risk is high.
yeah.
So
It's not like a car accident where you can just hop back on land. No, now you got to figure out how
Right.
to swim.
Right.
For
Yeah.
a very long time potentially.
Yeah, exactly. So, when I was talking earlier about the waves and how I swam with them, this is the last little piece of information.
No,
this
let
is
it rip, let it
fascinating
rip.
to me. When you hear about people that are in a big event or incident and then they make it and then they die a couple days later, it's because they overexerted and there's I shouldn't say always, but it's likely
I'm
because
glad you mentioned that because I was gonna ask that. Like, you're right. It's not uncommon for that to happen.
yeah. So they tested my blood in the hospital and the doctor was surprised. He's like, I forget what it is. I wish I would have done some research. There's a chemical that's a byproduct of overexertion. And that makes it's hard to process. And that's what kills you. Your organs can't process it. They shut down. Mine was at like 550. Yours is probably at like 50 or 100 right now, right? Just normal day to day. The doctor was shocked. He's like, why is this not like 11, 1200, which is when you go into intensive care and, you're nearly dead. And that I think a lot of that was because I swam the right way. I didn't just work. I was able to think about it.
You thought about it.
And I was able to, yeah.
You and Sasha's story is so
and apply
similar.
it. Yeah, I know.
It's
I
so
read up
similar
on
'cause
him today so
Well, the
much.
way he told it, and you'll listen to the
fascinating.
podcast and you'll meet him, dude. It's very, very similar. He thought about it, and I think that's the reason why both you two are alive today.
Yeah. Yeah. We were able to think about it.
Yeah.
And that I don't hold it against anybody, but it was interesting that the byproduct wasn't there because I was efficient or lazy or whatever you want to call it. Definitely not lazy. I worked my tail off, but
Well, dude, thank you, man, for telling this story. Like I said, it's not easy to do. A crazy story, and I think my goal is to have other people hear this story to maybe a little wake up call. B, too, I think this is going to be informative as well because maybe what to do in these kind of situations to have it ever happen to you. But you coming out and flying all the way out here this morning, man, it was awesome. So
it's very exciting to be here, and thank you for having this platform to share it with. And
hey, I told myself when I started doing this full time, I said we're not going to just be that Instagram page doing the same thing over and over. We got to mix it up and kind of show people this is what not to do and this is what to do. So
yeah, and we were talking about when I first met you before how I said it was curiosity at first and comical curiosity, I should say, over morbid. But then I followed that immediately with, man, you're going in the right direction. you're helping people learn how to perform better and safer.
I have people message me sometimes.
think it's great.
They message me. They say, "Man, I'm learning more from watching the stuff on your page."
It's awesome, dude.
So,
You're doing the right thing. It's great.
I appreciate it.
You're involved with the right people, so it's really exciting.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.